I've come to a very windy Copenhagen to drive the future of Mercedes. This is the CLA, and it's got a near 500-mile range, more electronics than a teenager's bedroom. It's even got a gearbox and loads of bling. But there's one very good reason why I don't think you should buy one yet. To find out what that is and see what it's like to drive, keep watching, and please like and subscribe while you're there. This is the Mercedes CLA, or to give it its full title, the Mercedes-Benz CLA 250 Plus with EQ technology. That's going to be a bit of a mouthful when it comes to your insurance renewal, isn't it? But technology is the word. It's the first Mercedes to use a whole new electric car system of hardware which will make up all its future models. And the Benz boffins have thrown everything at it to make sure its customers aren't tempted to go for one of those new pesky upstart brands from America, Korea or China. Key to this is the efficiency. So this version has a range of 484 miles before it needs a recharge. Now, to put that into perspective, that's enough for more than 3 weeks of the average British motorist before they'll need to plug the thing in. Once you do need to plug it in, if you find a fast enough charger, it will take up to 320 kilowatts. Now, that means that you could put in 200 miles, so that's like London to Leeds, in 10 minutes on the right charger. That's pretty nuts and better than any rival. Compared to the obvious rivals, that's a big deal. The BMW i4 has 174 miles less range, and even a long-range Tesla Model 3 will conk out 48 miles before the Benz. Neither of them can charge as fast either. Inside there's a lot of the Mercedes style and quality you'd expect, with a bit of the bling, which is perhaps an acquired taste. Now, there are just a few cost-cutting bits which might irritate you on a daily basis. So let's do the good stuff first. First of all, you've got this huge screen here and a nice screen here too. This bit here, which on this car is just some nice illuminated Mercedes stars, on other versions can be a screen where your passenger can play Angry Birds. Yes, really, if you want them to. The steering wheel feels nice. The stalks here are proper quality as well. You know, on some cars you get those sort of sharp edges. There's none of that here. There's these kind of jet turbine vents here too, and all this is nicely metallicized. You also know how journalists go along and prod things and say, oh, this doesn't feel that nice and it's scratchy plastic. Lots of the bits you touch are either metal and not piano black, so they won't look too dirty, and nicely squidgy too. But you know how on Volkswagens we've all said, oh, the haptic buttons, we hate them, and one of the things is this rear window button, so you've only got 2 buttons for the electric windows and then you have to press rear to do the rear ones, which is all a bit of a faff. Mercedes obviously looked to that and thought, yeah, that's a good idea. I know everyone's slagging it off, but we'll have that too. So it does have only 2 window switches. You have to press another button to get the rear ones to go down. There's haptic buttons on the steering wheel here. I will say that they do work better than the Volkswagen ones I've tried. They've got a proper kind of clicky feel, so I'm not so upset about them on this, but I just think, why? Anyway, back to the tech. This screen, huge, very clear, and it's also got this central computer system, which it says controls everything and is super fast. It's also got 2 different types of AI. But apparently you can have proper 2-way conversations with it, and it's also got a short-term memory, so it will remember what you've been talking about before, which is perhaps more than my wife does. So I'm going to try it. Let's think of a pub quiz question. What is greater, the population of Yorkshire or the population of Scotland? Thinking about it.
2025, the estimated population of Yorkshire is approximately 5.6 million people, while Scotland's population is around 5.48 million. Therefore, Yorkshire has a slightly higher population compared to Scotland.
I'm going to take the Mercedes CLA to the next pub quiz I go on. There's a lot of this car which makes it feel like a proper grown-up Mercedes, with the quality you'd expect. But there are some bits which quite obviously don't. For example, it doesn't ooze quality, does it? Then when you open the boot, there's these strange bits like here and here, which look as though someone's put some chewing gum in there and then painted over it. It just looks a bit unfinished. And these lights, I mean, they're very pretty and they've got that nice Mercedes logo, but this is a brand new car and they're already got these tiny little scratches on them that make them look a bit cheap. Now this sunroof is very nice and it adds to the headroom, which is obviously a good thing to have, but there's no sunshade and it hasn't got one of those clever systems where it kind of fuzzes over if you press a button. Now, I'm sure Mercedes will say, oh, it's got a UV coating and that means that you won't get too hot, but it's a sunny day today and I'm getting a bit too hot. All I want to be able to do is to kind of put myself in the shade a bit, and I can't. As a booted coupe version of the A-Class, I expected this car to be small, but it's 4,722mm long, which makes it 35mm longer than the previous CLA and a wafer longer than the Tesla Model 3. Nicola's already done a comprehensive walk around video of this car. If you want to see lots of details, then you can watch that here. But here are some of the highlights. At the front you've got this bling grille which has an illuminated Mercedes badge. In fact, not just one like rivals. Oh no, there are 142 of them. It's even got a couple on the rear lights. Is it too much? Well, my kids think they're cool, so maybe yours will too. Under the bonnet is a 101 litre frunk, and that's bigger than a Tesla Model 3's. The boot is 405 litres, which is bang on average for this class. Room in the back? Well, it's not one of this car's strong points. That swoopy roofline hurts the headroom and I wouldn't recommend it for anyone taller than my 5'8" really. There's a shooting brake style estate and an SUV version coming if you need a bit more space. Well, that's too many numbers and too much wind. Let's go for a drive. The CLA 250 Plus has an 85 kilowatt hour battery and 272 horsepower motor on the back axle. Now there's nothing particularly unusual about that specification, but what is strange is it's got a 2-speed gearbox. It doesn't have a gear lever or a clutch or anything silly like that, although that might be quite good fun, but it does have 2 ratios. Now the reason for that is that an electric motor is unusually efficient, and unlike a petrol or a diesel, you don't need to have lots of gears because an electric motor can go from 0, where it has lots of torque to get you off the line, and spin up to 10 or even 20,000 RPM. But on this car, they want it to have a higher top speed because Germans like their autobahns. So to keep it efficient, they've put in that extra ratio. Now, again, that's nothing new. We've had it on the Porsche Taycan for a few years now. But on the Porsche, it's all about the performance. So it's about having the acceleration when you're in launch mode. Whereas on this car, it's about keeping the motor at the most efficient point. So that's quite clever. I've been driving it a while now and I haven't noticed it changing. On the Porsche, you definitely can feel a thunk as it changes ratio. On this, I haven't felt it yet. But what I have noticed is that it's really quite efficient. And that is also helped by the regen braking. Now, if I move this backwards and forwards, this stalk, which is the gear one, it will go between high regen, which is like one pedal driving, to no regen at all. But I've found this intelligent mode where it uses the radar and it senses if I should be just gliding, which is terribly efficient because you're not using any energy at all, down to putting on some really heavy regen when you've got a car parked in front of you like I have now. It's really nice and really clever, and apparently the best use of energy. As you'd expect, you've got the opportunity to choose your different driving modes. I press a proper button down there, not something on the screen. I've got the choice of comfort, sport, eco or individual. Now, this is one of those cars where if I was having it for longer or I owned it, I think I'd go into individual and actually set it up the way I want it, because none of the other ones are particularly ideal for me. The sport just makes the steering a bit too pointy, a bit too nervous feeling. In comfort, it's a bit too woolly, really. The best I've found so far is eco. I think it doesn't seem to dull the performance at all. And the steering is a happy medium. I think even if you have that though, there's still just a little bit of woolliness compared to something like a BMW. But for now, I'm in eco, which will be good for the planet too, I suppose. Now I've been driving in a while, there are a few little niggles, as you might expect. First of all, the seats, I mean, they look very nice. I'm not sure about the highlighter pen yellow accents, but that's just a question of taste, I suppose. But There's no lumbar support, so I feel like I'm at a bit of a right angle and hunched over. So on a long journey, which you could do in a car that's got a 500-mile range, I'm not sure how comfortable they'd be. And they're a bit sweaty. That might be kind of the fake leather. Also, this kind of silly thing maybe, but it's just say you're listening to some music, you start drumming the steering wheel. It's got a really odd, hollow sound, like a kind of drumming on a biscuit tin. Is that too much of a niggle? Am I nitpicking? One more thing, the mirrors. They're quite big there, but they're actually quite a small area of reflective surface, so you can't actually see that much out of them. Luckily the safety systems are keeping an eye out for me, I suppose. We tend to moan a bit about the safety systems in cars like this and all the bleeps and bongs, but on this I think they're really well judged. Hopefully this is the next generation which we can get used to. So the bongs are pretty well muted when you don't need them. They just give you a gentle reminder. If the car in front of you brakes, it will shake the seatbelt a bit. The lane tugging's all quite subtle. Hopefully this is the sort of level where it's helping you out, but not absolutely driving you nuts all the time. Other than the seats though, the comfort is pretty good. I like the driving position. You can't see the corners of the bonnet, but that's again not a huge issue. There's the visibility out of the back. There's a reasonable sized rear window, which you wouldn't get in something like a Polestar 4, I suppose. The performance? Well, the CLA 250 Plus can accelerate from 0 to 62 in 6.7 seconds and has an unusually high top speed because of that gearbox. It's 130 miles an hour, which might be important if you visit Germany a lot or you want to keep up with traffic on that long stretch of the M40 where everyone seems to do 120 miles an hour. It really is fast enough, and what it also does, interestingly, is it makes a nice noise when you put your foot down. So I'll just find a nice clear bit of road and then you'll hear the roar. It's almost kind of AMG-ish. It's a bit childish, but it does make you want to go. You hear that? In terms of the dynamics, it's really comfortable. The bigger bumps do give a bit of a jar, so if you hit a speed bump too quickly, it's going to give you a bit of a shock, and those bigger potholes too. But otherwise, it's really well judged. It's really comfortable in here. Put it in the comfort mode, and it's a really relaxing, refined place to be, but it's also got a little bit of fun if you want it. It's just a shame that initial turn of the steering wheel is a little bit dead. Prices? Well, it's a Mercedes, so it's never going to be cheap, but I was quite pleasantly surprised actually. The CLA 250 Plus Sport Edition with EQ technology starts at £45,615, which is about £600 more than the Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive long range, and about 7 grand cheaper than the cheapest BMW i4. That is a bigger car overall, I'd say though. So it's not terrible. I think the Chinese competition obviously looks a bit cheaper and will be a bit better equipped, but for a prestige brand, I don't think that's bad value.
This video is brought to you with Anderson EV, the UK's most awarded home charge point brand of 2024, offering over 200 colour and finish options, a market-leading 7-year warranty, and a unique hidden tethered cable.
So all in all, it seems like a really well-judged car, and I like it a lot as long as you don't need anyone taller than me in the back, well, ever. But there's one big howler that Mercedes have made, and I just can't understand it, and it's around the charging. So if you can connect to an 800-volt charger, it takes on the power really quickly. But you can only plug into 800-volt chargers, not 400-volt chargers. And most of the Rapids that we've got in the UK are 400 volts. Mercedes say it's not an issue because the 800-volt chargers are the only ones that you will find in the sat-nav. It's a bit like buying a petrol or diesel car and the manufacturer saying you can only fill up at Shell petrol stations. You'd be outraged, you wouldn't accept it. And that's a bit what it's like with this, it's limiting your choice. Now, if you've got a rival like Tesla, where it's got the whole Tesla infrastructure plus any other charger, that's a real problem. People like Tesla because they know they're not going to get that range anxiety because they can fill up with power in lots of places. And you don't have that in this yet. Now, I suppose with a 500-mile range, you might fill up at home, drive for 3 weeks at a time between recharges, and never have to worry about that 800-volt infrastructure. But for me, even if it's just a few times a year, that's going to really worry me. Now, they are working on a fix apparently, and in the spring of 2026, you might, fingers crossed, be able to buy a little accessory that will allow you to charge at 400-volt charges too. And I hope so, because it will make it a much better car, a much more rounded package, and make it easier to recommend. I think it will be worth the wait.